For exterior jambs, I always install a beveled hardwood sill. That helps secure the jamb legs and also helps direct water out of the opening. I start by fastening a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch strip to the bottom of the sill, and then I run it right through my surface planer. I'm using the clamps on this door because it's kind of rough, and I'm afraid that this guide rail might slip around a little bit, and I definitely don't want that to happen. I'm going to trim the top of the door just a little bit to get it nice and clean and flushed up. I just sanded the door with 80 grit, and when I did, I exposed a little bit of grain on the face here. Normally, I'd just seal the top of the door with exterior polyurethane, a couple of coats, maybe 3, but in this case, since this is all pre-finished, I'm going to put a coat of stain on the top of this just to cover this little edge that I eased over, and then I'll put 2 coats of polyurethane on the top of the door, and when I cut the bottom of the door, I'll do exactly the same thing. I want the top of the door and the bottom of the door sealed up really good. I don't hang too many 4-foot doors. I mean, 4 foot wide that stick up this high from the ground. Makes it kind of hard to work on the door. You almost need a stool down here or a ramp or something the whole length of the door. But the real point is, I'm still using exactly the same tools I use for hanging a regular door, a 3.0 or a 2.8 or whatever. I'm using a Templaco hinge template here. It's an 8.0 template, and you'll notice I put some blue tape right down here. That's the center hinge. If you wanted to use this template to hang an 8.0 door with just 3 hinges, you'd use that center hinge hole. But I'm not using that one. I'm putting on 4 hinges, so I'm using these 4 here. That's why I put blue tape over there, and you can guess why. I'm using a template guide. And it's really easy to adjust this for the depth of cut too. All I have to do is take the router and push it down until the bit touches the wood inside of the template, and then tighten it up. And here's the depth control rod. So I'll just take the depth control rod and push it down against the hinge. I want to get it down there snug and then tighten up that knob. Just like so. I'm using a Vicks bit here for number 10 screws. This is a big baby, and I want to be sure to use a Vicks bit so that the screws will go exactly where I want them to go, not where the grain wants them to go. I do not want to split these soft pine doors. And I'm driving a long screw. This is a steel square drive screw, not the hinge screws that came, the short hinge screws that came with the hinges, because I'm really concerned about the weight of these doors. In fact, I should be putting these on with a bigger hinge, but these will do. You might have noticed, if you've seen my door hanging DVD, that I don't have a scribe line on this side of the door the way I normally do. That's because I'm not hanging a new door in an old jamb. I'm hanging a new door in a new jamb. So I don't have to cut to a scribe line. I can undersize this door to fit the new jamb, and it's very easy to do. The jamb measures 48 inches on the ID. I want the door to fit inside the jamb and have about 1/8 of an inch on each side. So if I plane the door down so it's 1/4 of an inch under the ID of the jamb, it's going to fit just fine, and that's all I'm doing. I've made a mark on this side of the door for how much I need to take off. So I've measured this door, and I put a mark right here at 47 3/4, and I even continued that line across using my square, just about 7-8 inches long, something that I could really see easily. And that is the long point of the door. That's the inside of the door. The short point of the bevels on the door will be on the back side against my bench. That'll be where the door stop goes, toward the outside of the opening. I took the same measurement and put it on the door here at 47 3/4, just a reference line to keep me straight across that door. And I did it one more time on at the top of the door and the bottom of the door, because the bottom of the door is locked in place by the door sill, that nice mahogany door sill I made, and the top of the door is locked in place by the head of the jamb. So I continued this line about 8 inches out too, just to make sure that I get the door exactly 47 3/4 at the top and the bottom. And then I don't need any scribe lines. I can just plane it and hang it. So now I got the door plane down just right. I'm going to take my Rotex sander and sand down the surface a little bit, clean it up, and ease these edges. And then I'm going to stain all of this, let it dry, and put about 3 or 4 coats of polyurethane on it, just to make sure it doesn't ever take on water, at least the top and the bottom. I can't put polyurethane on this surface because I want it to look like that rough side of that door. You know, there's one other thing I should tell you. This door only has about a 1-degree bevel, maybe 1.5 degrees. You look at it real close and against my square here, you'll notice it doesn't have a really steep pitch on the leading edge on the strike side. I actually bevel the strike and the hinge side of the door. But the reason it only has a 1-degree bevel is because it's a 48-inch door. I learned a long time ago that the wider the door, the less the angle of the bevel has to be. For a 36-inch door or a 2/8 door, like a 32-inch door, you need about 3 degrees of bevel, which is pretty standard. And for a narrow side light, like a 12-inch or a 16-inch side light, boy, you need like a 4 or 5 degree bevel to get the leaning edge of the door right here to clear the jamb as the door is closing. I marked this line right here so it would be dead flush with the inside head of the jamb, because I want to register my hinge template off that line, right off the inside face of the head jamb. You know, I could have just held this together and marked it, but then when I go to throw the screws in, the leg might move a little bit or the head might move a little bit, and that line might not represent the exact face of the head jamb. And boy, I want it to, because when I mortise this thing for the hinges, I want to end up with an 1/8 of an inch head gap. I don't want it to be too tight, and I don't want it to be too loose. And another thing, which way does this door swing? I don't want to mortise the hinges into this edge of the jamb, because then it would be a right-hand door. It would swing this way. This is a left-hand door. I want it to swing off this edge of the jamb. So I'm going to take a piece of blue tape and set it right on here, just to remind myself which edge of the jamb gets the hinge mortises. I got my blue tape here, so I won't mess this jamb leg up. It's a left-handed jamb leg. So I got that right. Now all I have to do is flush up the template with the head jamb. Now look at this real closely. I don't want to flush up the template itself with the head jamb. Remember, this pencil line is my head jamb. I want to flush up the button on the template with the head jamb, because it's the thickness of this button right here that gives me my head gap. Look right here. This space right here between the template and the line is the head gap. And with this door, I could probably move that template down just a little bit, because it's a rustic door and a rustic jamb, so it'll probably look good with a bigger gap. And that way, if the door swells up, it'll never rub. So I'll set it right there and then tap in these template pins, and I can mortise out for the hinges. Yeah, I'm using yellow glue here, Titebond 2, to seal up the end grain here instead of paint. You can do that, you know. You can use Titebond 2 to seal your end grain. Just use something. Titebond 2 works just fine, but use something. Glue is the perfect thing to use, because if I was to paint this or something, then all I'd be adhering glue to would be to the paint surface. So glue is the perfect thing to use. Just make sure that you spread it on here evenly and completely. Now I can take this head jamb, put it up against here, and drive these screws in. And they'll go right into the previous holes.